Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Hello. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
David Moore, Dallas Morning News. We start by talking a couple of key guys for you dealing with injuries out of that game, just what it's looking like for them and how you proceed. Certainly you won't have one and potentially the others.
Yeah, CJ, I can't describe how big of a loss that is. On the game field, of course, you guys see that, but gosh, everything else he does Monday through Saturday, meeting room, practice field, mentorship. And he'll still do that, but gosh, we'll miss him on Sunday. That's a hard one to just say, hey, okay, you do this job because he's just different. He's very special. He's very special. Very special. That one hurts.
And also Turpin as well, just kind of, I know it's potentially he could be back, but just how that impacts you.
Yeah, that had a huge impact too, because the guys who had to go back in this past game and return the kicks, I had on the phases as blockers. So then I had to replace those blockers with other blockers, and it just turned into honestly trying to get through the second half of that game. So it was that was a tough one last night. But Deuce came in there, and his first punt he had to catch was a bomb, under the lights, and so that was a great punt catch by him. It got us a first down. So hopefully that's a little confidence builder for him returning punts if we need him to do it. But then, we saw Deuce and Rico, we kind of just switched on and off for no reason. I think they can both do it very well, and one had to block and one had to return, so we just gave them a crack at each one. So we have guys that can do it, but CJ's, hard to replace, and so is Terp.
Hear about Brandon's 50-yard field goal. I don't know how they kick it in warm-ups and your confidence level of him being able to kick outdoors, that wind and there.
Yeah, great comment. I was talking to Anger right after that kick, and we both felt that was his best kick of the year. Even on the sideline, you could just see it and you could hear it just like, poof, right through the pipes. Didn't waver. It seemed like from the sideline. And there were some wind conditions going in one direction. There was wind at the back. One, there was definitely wind in the face. And then there's a little bit of the swirl effect. But we talked about it. We went outside this past Wednesday and Thursday and kicked outside on our own. And there was windy days. And we said, this is perfect, man. On the grass, there's some wind. Don't take it really into account. Just hit your ball right down the pipe. And he did that. And so confidence level in him is clearly growing. I feel like he can make just about any kick we probably throw him out there to make.
Michael Gelfling, Dallas Morning News. When you lose that many guys to injury as a team, it's felt in special teams. What exactly was that like dealing with all of those circumstances that are coming up?
Yeah, the game yesterday, that was one of the harder games I've been through, just as far as, configuring 11 guys on the field, because losing CJ, had to pull it. You have to pull it from somewhere, and then wherever you pull it from has to replace there. So it's just a domino effect. It's like, when does this end, And then losing Terp, had to use a blocker to go return the kick, so we were kind of double whammied right there. But everybody stepped up. I got all our plays on cards, so if they hadn't done it before, they just look at the card, and this is what you got to do. That's part of the benefit of kind of having it carded. But I was proud of everybody for, Damone Clark, Marquise Bell, Wanye Thomas. They played significant roles on defense, and they did not miss one snap on special teams. So they were hurting by the end of the game because their load was very high. That was a hard one yesterday. I was on the sideline talking to a couple guys, like, when the score kind of got out of hand a little bit, it's like, let's try to just finish this game healthy and keep our guys clean for next week, because it was tough.
It was with CJ. I noticed obviously he exited and willing to get harnessed and give it a go, even though he really couldn't raise his left arm. And then he's back on the sideline. There was one play where Jalen comes off and CJ's working with him on the sideline, explaining a certain technique, and it probably happened more than once. But how CJ handled the injury by going back in the game and then being on the sideline after?
Yeah, CJ, his toughness is way underrated. Maybe I don't know what it's rated, but it's elite. He got his pec on the very first tackle. So that first tackle he made is when he did it. And then he needed just a little bit of time to kind of get it checked out, so he missed the next punt gunner rep. And then he went back in for our third rep because he wanted to test it. And man, they harnessed him and all that, but on that third rep, he had no power on his left arm. Not only running, but he couldn't separate from the guy that he was running with. And he wanted to test it out, and I said, if the doctor said so. And after that, it was clear that he just couldn't do it, and he knew it. So he became, mine and Coach Stewart's co-special teams coordinators the rest of the night, and he was locked in, helping Noah, helping JT, because JT went out there and played corner for us on punt return. So CJ's a phenomenal man, a very special teams football player. There's not many, if any, like him, and so he'll be missed on game day, but hopefully he'll be around during the week to just do his thing that he always does.
Hey, Jim. John.
Yeah.
Sadis, The Athletic. We were talking to Mike about the injuries, and he was talking about the impact on special teams in terms of body type and stuff. How much do you look at that in terms of, how big your players are there, and how do you kind of work through which positions need to be a certain way that way?
Yeah, gosh, that's a loaded question. It's a tough question to answer, kind of all in one. Because, let's say, for example, Nashawn Wright, on punt, he could be a gunner, but on punt return, we might use him inside in the core. So there's certain guys, like a CJ, where, they live in the outside world, gunner on punt, corner on punt return. And then there's certain guys that live in the inside world. And then there's a couple that kind of combo between both of them. So the body type gosh, I don't know how to answer that question very well, to be honest with you. It takes all kinds, and try to find what their strengths are, and you put them in the positions of what their strengths are, and you don't worry about the weaknesses. But everybody's different, so sorry I don't got a better one for you, but it is a puzzle piece, and that's the kind of the fun challenge of it.
Nick Harris, DallasCowboys.com. I know you haven't had a lot of time with Noah Igbenogany, but what kind of confidence do you have in him being able to kind of fill in for CJ's roles?
A lot. And we studied a lot of his tape in Miami, and he got, quite a bit of work on special teams in Miami. But since he's been here, he's been fantastic. On the practice field, he works and he competes. He's had, plenty of work at corner on punt return, and he's gotten a little bit of work at gunner. He's a pro. And the cool thing about Noah is, when we get him, you don't really know like the person, but he's very willing to do anything we've ever asked of him. And so that was a great kind of relief for us on special teams. Like, okay, at least we got a guy who cares and is willing to do it, and that's 90% of the battle getting started. So I'm proud of Noah, and his role will increase for sure.
Skylar Dixon with the AP. This is actually related to that. You said earlier it's tough with CJ to kind of grab a guy and say, go do that job.
Yeah.
Who is that guy? Is it Noah? Is it a committee? What does it look like?
Yeah, I think we're working through it right now. You got Noah, you got Jalen Tolbert, who's been fantastic. Guys on the practice squad that we could elevate. Guys potentially coming off the IR that we could get back. So I don't think it's been decided yet, but I know we have a really cool group of homegrown talent that's on our practice squad that'll step up. And it seems like this year, gosh, through 5 weeks, we're dipping into our practice squad a lot faster than I can ever remember. So, but that's part of it, And I told them week 2 or week 3, like at some point, everybody's going to get a shot to play. I know you guys don't believe me, but it's coming, and it's coming a lot faster for some guys than I anticipated. But that's what they do. That's what they're here for, right?
And you said on the returner with Deuce, if he's the one that we need for that, or what are some of the other options there along with Deuce?
As a punt returner, yeah, I think Deuce, he can catch punts. Wanye Thomas can catch punts. CeeDee Lamb can obviously do it, although we probably wouldn't have him return it. Hey, go back there and get us the possession. So I'm not concerned about punt catchers we have. Then kickoff returners, I think we're stocked too. You got Rico, Deuce, Wanye could go back there and do it. But we'll be hoping for Turk for sure. But if he can't, we'll get it done with the guys that we have for sure.
Babe Loffenberg, Cowboys Radio. John, I actually have a question, but I would like to follow up on your discussion about Noah. And have you found in your experience that you get these high draft picks, you get a little cold water slapped in their face somewhere, and then you get them, and all of a sudden they realize maybe special teams is for me?
Yeah. Both ways, really. They get water slapped on their face, and all of a sudden they realize, like, okay, I gotta own this role, and kind of maybe recommit myself to it. You say I have some guys that don't, that ain't for me. I don't want to do it. It's not going to get me to where I want to go. I can understand it, but I think, I talk to our young guys a lot about just establishing a role for yourself early in your career, and then let it take off to cool places. But to answer your question, it goes both ways, and that's why, like I said, when we got Noah, it was a relief that, okay, he cares, because it sure could have been the other way, but it's not.
Okay. And so my question, obviously you had Johnny Hecker who could throw the ball, so that was a whole different fake punt deal you guys had available to you. But, I don't know, 20 years ago, you might have saw 3 fake punts a year.
Yeah.
I mean, in the whole NFL. And now, you can't watch a game without some team doing it. When did you see the transformation go where people were aggressive with that? And you ever thought, is there a reason for that? Is there some
Gosh, I don't.
happen that they said,
I don't know.
you would agree though that you never saw it. I mean, you didn't.
Yeah, when did it kind of come back into play? I don't know. I don't know when it kind of came back. I know when I was in Oakland, we did a couple with Shane Leckler because he was a quarterback in high school and college, and then with Johnny Hecker, he was a quarterback in high school and college, and so we did it for that reason. But I don't know when it left and when it came back. I don't know.
When did you start making your guys aware
Of that?
They could take it anywhere, like the Jets, they're on 20.
Oh yeah, big film. I think every head coach or special teams coordinator has a library of gadgets that they use or don't use, and then you're alerted more to some than the others based on their history. 4, 5, 6, 10 years worth of tape that we'll go back and see any of that. So it's probably by game, by coach, by staff.
The last time you guys faced the Chargers there, it was Turpin's big 2-return touchdown game. How do you reflect upon that performance he had? Is it favorably because he got to show what he could do in an exciting way, or is it less so because of the entire league could see what he could do and maybe guard against it when the game's counted?
Yeah, I think I've gone both ways since that happened. When he first did it, it was like, yes, we got a guy, and he kind of came out of nowhere, and he just got here 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. But to feel like, because we're going into that training camp, like, I wonder who's going to be. We don't really want it to be CD and Tony Pollard taking on a different role, so we need to have somebody step up. And when he did it, it was like, yes. But then, everybody's alerted, like, oh, the Cowboys got a pretty good guy, so try to take the ball out of their hands pretty good. But looking back on it now, over a year later, it's fantastic. It was awesome. Because I really think we got a really solid young professional who can return kickoffs and punts, as brave as anybody, and then whose role, feels like it's starting to increase on offense. So, I look back at that very fondly. That was a really cool day. It was a preseason game, but still we root for our young guys to establish themselves as something. Special teams, returner, starting linebacker, whatever it might be. So, we just got to find that magic with the ball in Terp's hands across the goal line again sometime.
John Todd Archer of the ESPN. Is there a difference in your mind between a punt catcher and a punt returner? Because you used punt catcher for a couple of those guys.
Yeah. Good find. I did use that, didn't I? Yeah, I think so. First criteria's got to be a guy that can catch it. So I think that's why I probably referred to, Deuce or Wanye as a punt catcher, because they can, because the catching of the punt is way different and much harder than catching a kickoff. So it takes a different level of ball skills. Then you put the two together, then you got a real guy like Terp, who can catch it and can run it. I think some guys you feel really good back there catching it, but you're hoping maybe you get a first down. And there's some guys you're like, man, I wish this guy could really catch it because he could be a great returner. But it's like, So I'm full of bad answers up here today. My mind's on another good project right now.
CJ obviously has a lot of off-the-field leadership that he'll be able to take forward. But on the field, who are some candidates do you feel like could really step up in the leadership department and help that group?
On special teams, I would say Malik Jefferson. I think Noah You know, Malik's going into year 6. So you're kind of looking at the guys that have been around the league a little bit. A Sheldrick Redwine, who's on our practice squad. You know, he's in his 5th year. So there's different bits and pieces. And I tell all the guys, you know, just because you don't have to be on the 49 or be a starting 4-phase guy to be a leader. You know, we have leaders on our practice squad. Like I talked about, Redwine is a great young man who's a veteran guy. So I think it's going to pull from everywhere. I don't think we have one guy like CJ that'll step up and kind of carry the torch. It's going to come from Malik in the core and, you know, Noah outside. And I think some of our young guys. I told, you know, Wanye and Marquise, you know, leadership doesn't also only come from age. You know, it can come from just production and proof of work ethic, and guys respond to that. So we've got a lot of guys that'll do a great job. I'm obviously crushed for CJ, but I'm excited for whoever kind of takes on that next opportunity, because it's a big one. It's a big one. It's a big one.
Thank you, Bob.
Yep. Thanks, you guys.